Welcome. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Cultural Coast. I'm Reverend Theresa and I'm so happy that you're here with me this morning. I am a student of life, a student of this thing called life. Specifically, I've been studying this teaching of science mind for 29 years. Yesterday was my anniversary. It's really something to remember the day that your life began to seriously change. The day I walked into a religious science center, my dear friend Kathy Hart brought me. I'm forever grateful to you, Kathy. And my life began to change. The minister there was Reverend David Owen Ritz, and one of the things that David used to like to say was that he was there to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. So I'm going to ask you this morning, which are you, my friends? Which are you? Are you comfortable? And do you need to be aroused from your slumber? Or are you in need of love? Whichever it is, I'm glad you're here with us this morning, because you're a divine, unique individualization of the God, the One, the Spirit. That thing that created life, brings it from invisible into the visible, tangible form. Everything in between. The creative process that allows life to be birthed. Yeah? You're intimately connected with that. And I'm so grateful that you've chosen to be here with us. I'm so grateful that you're committed to your spiritual growth, to a deeper understanding of what life is all about and where your place is in it. I'm grateful that you're committed to our spiritual community. Yeah, I'm grateful to technology that keeps connecting us every Sunday so we can love, stream, and feel the unity. Feel the unity. It's about feeling today, a little bit about feeling. All month long, we are looking at ascension, ascending, reaching higher, going beyond our comfort zones into a greater understanding of who and what we are and our place on this big round planet. And today and last week, I brought up the idea of reaching higher even when things are uncomfortable, even when there's disruptions, when there's challenges. And so we're looking at that a little deeper this morning. The talk title, the message is When the Road Gets Rocky. But I really want us to look at what are the universal truths, the spiritual principles that the ancients talked about, that we is the foundation of Science of Mind and the Centers for Spiritual Living. What are those universal truths that we can lean into, and what are the tools that Science Mind has available for you and I to use all the time, but specifically when things get a little rocky? I want to see if we can come to an understanding of how we can solve our problems and find comfort in the world, no matter what's going on outside. I know that I can, and I know that you can. And so I'm so excited that you've joined me this morning. Join me right here and right now in consciousness, in that place where I know that I'm connected to the process of life. I'm connected to the process of creation. This is true all the time. But right here and right now, I consciously go within to that place where I know that I know that I know that I know that I am one with the divine, that I always have been, that I always will be. That comfort is mine right here and right now, for I am the divine expression of the One. There's one source, one substance of all life. And it so lovingly, graciously brought me here. Not to abandon me, but to allow me to know myself within itself, to do this dance, to have a partnership. I'm so grateful as I lean in, as I trust, as I allow that which is the creator of all life to move in, as, and through, because it is my life. It can be no other thing. What I know for myself, I know for each one of us here this morning. And so I affirm a greater realization of this truth, a greater understanding of who and what we are, and of all the magnificence that we have available here, now, in this moment, and every moment. I affirm a spark is lit. A veil is removed. That somehow, some way, this day, be it through the music, the message, the reading, we awaken to a greater truth, a greater reality of who and what we are. And so I'm grateful for that. Join me in claiming this truth for yourself by saying, and so it is. This ever-present light and love is all around us. It is within us. And our musician this morning, I think, is such a beautiful testament to that. This woman is alive with spirit. Every time I've had the opportunity and the blessing to interact with her, she is upbeat, she is engaged, she is alive. She is alive in spirit. And so help me welcome this morning back, returning to us again. I think this is her third time, Jessie Powers. Jessie has a new album out called To Remember. I've listened to it multiple times. We're going to let you know how you can find it this morning. You can go to Jessie Powers music. You can find her on the web. You can find her on Facebook. You can find her on all streaming sources and listen to this music. I know it will uplift your life. So here she is, Jessie Powers.
Thanks, Rev. That was very sweet. It's funny that you said that I was so full of life because I'm going to sing a song about how much I love being alive. I might have shared this one with you guys because it's my favorite one. It's the one where we all meow at the end. So I'd love if you would join me there from your couch or wherever you are. We're going to celebrate life. Here we go. I woke up this morning joyful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. I woke up this morning joyful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. I woke up this morning joyful as can be. Feel the joy, that's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. I dream so joyfully. I woke up this morning joyful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. 'Cause I love being alive. It's the greatest thing about my life. Oh, I love being alive. It's the greatest thing about my life. Grateful. I woke up this morning grateful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. Think of things you're grateful for. I woke up this morning grateful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. Really get the gratitude in you. I woke up this morning grateful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. Yeah, I woke up this morning grateful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. 'Cause I love being alive. It's the greatest thing about my life. Oh, I love being alive. It's the greatest thing about my life. Okay, this is where you guys get to participate. If you weren't already participating. We're going to get playful. And when I say playful, what I really mean is extremely silly, because silly is the foundation of creation, and we are naturally creators. That is what we were born to do, create our own reality. And for that, we need some imagination. And for the imagination to work, we need to be silly about it, okay? So we're going to get playful. Let's go. I woke up this morning playful as can be. That's how I spend my day, and that's how I'll sleep. I woke up this morning playful as can be. That's how I spend my day, and that's how I'll sleep. I'm from the South, I can do that. I woke up this morning playful as can be. That's how I spend my day, and that's how I'll sleep. Meow, 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 meow. Because I love being alive. Meow, 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 meow. I love being alive. I lost it. Okay. I love being alive. It's the greatest thing about my life. One more time. I love being alive. It's the greatest thing about my meow. Good job, everybody.
Oh my God, Jesse, that was awesome. I don't think I've ever heard anybody sing quite that way. So, good morning. I'm Hector. Namaste to everyone. Today's reading is from the collection called Soul Thoughts, written by Reverend Don Fern. Don was one of my first spiritual teachers. He made his transition almost a year ago, but his words do carry on. Here we go. When we say yes to something, we initiate strong responses in our experience. By agreeing to something, by agreeing to belong to something, an organization, a decision, a way of being, we feel called to new ways of living. We will act differently. We will stand in a different place. Contrary to what most believe, we cannot stand at the end of something we visualize in detail and plan backwards from the future. Instead, we must stand at the beginning, clear in our intent, with a willingness to be involved in discovery. Focus more on how we can enter into the experience and then notice what comes forth. That would participate more than plan. I like the way Margaret Wheatley states this. Life is creative. It plays itself into existence, seeking new relationships, new capacities, and new traits. As it tinkers with discovery, it creates more and more possibilities. With so much freedom for discovery, how can life be anything but playful? Life is about invention, not survival. We are here to create, not defend. We live in a world that delights in exploration, a world that makes it up as we go along, a world that also welcomes us into the exploration as partners. Life does not know what it will be until it notices what it has become. To get from where we are to where we want to be, we must first realize where we are. The next step is determined by our response to the previous steps we took. The process of discovery always takes shape around an identity. At the center of everything is a self-becoming, an identity moving through the world trying to make a difference. But only relationships change us, reveal us, and evoke more from us. We do not live in a world that encourages separateness. Only when we join with others do our gifts become more evident, even to ourselves. Our self-love modifies the life energies of the people around you and frees them to love you. By relating to that place in them where they are loved, the namaste experience, we take their consciousness to a higher place, and in return, our own. Life co-creates. There are no separated individuals. The co-creative process of life cannot support isolation. Even as we draw the boundary of self, we also are creating an environment for others to participate in. We define ourselves, but we also create conditions for the lives of others. One self-asserting, loving being creates itself, and its presence creates an environment for others to take form. We then, in godlike manner, create the experience of a better world. We are no longer simply an effect of the world around us. We have become cause, a creative source. We each create our own worlds by choosing. We then see the world through the self we have created. Thank you. Now back to Jesse. More meowing.
Thank you. That was beautiful. And so appropriate about playfulness. We're going to drop into the heart right here. Because when that road gets rocky, first thing that we probably need to do is work on a little forgiveness. So I invite you to think of something that you know that you need to forgive yourself for. It's time to let it go. And let it go right now with me. Here we go. So many years I've hidden, so many lies I've told, the ignorance of youth, or a woman too afraid of truth. So many things mistaken, so much guilt I hold, buried alive, a weight on my chest, stole my breath and I went cold. And how I long for the warmth of love, for the softer side of me. The time is now, I shall be free. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I forgive myself for everything. Expectations shattered, promises unkept. So many times I swore I'd change. Years go by and I'm still the same. And how I long for tenderness and grace in my own hands. I am the one, I understand. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I forgive myself for everything. Hey, hey, oh, yeah. Yes, the faith I had in myself turned to confusion. It's such a slow erosion. Seemed that hope and trust were just another couple illusions. But somewhere deep inside I realize I am worthy. I am somebody who can be relied on. So I'm gonna put my faith in me. I'll put my faith in me once again. I have found redemption. I'll put my faith in me. I put my faith in me once again. Oh, I have found redemption. I forgive myself. myself. I forgive, I forgive, I forgive, I forgive myself for everything. I forgive, I forgive, I forgive, I forgive myself.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Jesse. So beautiful, so beautiful. I'm so happy you're here with us this morning. That song, Forgive, is on Jesse's new album, To Remember. So just know that. And Hector, thanks so much for sharing the words of Don Fern. And just as I am blown away every Sunday, and I say it every Sunday, I can't get over the how when you keep your hands off and don't micromanage, how everything just so beautifully, harmoniously synchronizes your reading with Jesse's opening song and the playfulness. New ways of living. That's what we're talking about here. That is what we're talking about. So in my opening, I said all month long, we are looking at reaching higher, and specifically today, how can we do that when we're challenged? You know, I spoke last week about this, about the difficulties that we could have experienced in Salt Lake City when we were up there for my daughter's wedding, but how with faith and trust and this understanding of how life works and how we cooperate with the operation of life, it was an amazing time. If you didn't catch that, go back and listen to it. It is an example of what I'm talking about today. Today I'm looking at more of a how. How do we manage ourselves through the rough terrain? Because when we're walking a spiritual path, there's no guarantees that there aren't going to be bumps in the road. In fact, you know, I can pretty much guarantee there still will be, but it's different. It's different. How we maneuver is different. And when that difference takes place, problems, those things that we want to deem as problems aren't viewed as a problem. And loss or our needs will change. They seem to shift. And life really is simpler. It's easier. It's simpler. There's less striving, less I don't have it and I need it kind of thing. There's more authentic expression. There's less fighting. There's less resistance. There's more loving. I love being alive. Right, Jesse? I love being alive. So there's something guiding our path when we have this attitude about life. And what is it? It is a principle, a universal principle, a spiritual principle. At the Centers for Spiritual Living, we call them core concepts. Core concepts. And the first one, and I think the most important one, is oneness. Is the idea of oneness. That there is one ultimate, infinite reality. And we call it many names. You know, a lot of people call it God. Life, energy, infinite intelligence, infinite knowingness, the universe, first cause, the thing itself, love, the changeless. I could go on. I could spend 20 minutes probably going, finding names. But it is undivided, complete, whole within itself. And all creation originates from this one source, comes out of this one source. So one source, one substance. It includes the absolute and the relative. It includes the tangible and the intangible, the visible, the invisible, the physical and the metaphysical aspects of life. Everything. everything. And so see, there's this inherent unity within the one, right? This oneness, this allness, each one of us participate in. Each one of us are part of. Each one of us are an incarnation of this one spirit, right? We are inseparable from it. There's a divine wholeness, a perfection that we participate in, that there's an eternal and irrevocable interconnectivity. Isn't that fabulous? Eternal and irrevocable. Eternal and irrevocable. Eternal and irrevocable. Doesn't that just give you peace? Knowing that all of that we are immersed in, surrounded by, filled with, made of. See, the source of all life is the substance of all life. There's only one thing. The source is the substance, right? It's true in my life. It's true in your life. One source, one substance. And to experience that truth, woo, that's what we want, right? And Ernest Helms tells us over and over and over again in his writings that to the degree that we embody that is to the degree that life changes. So see, when my road gets rocky, I first have to remember who and what I am, right? And then I can tap into my superpowers. Same thing for you. All this presence is love and peace, and there's a natural harmony, a natural rhythm, a flow. It is mine to the degree that I recognize it, that I accept it, that I align myself with it, that I open myself to it. All the beauty, all the strength, all the health, all the wholeness. To the degree. All the good in an eternal, infinite abundance is mine and it is yours. To the degree. To the degree. Here's a excerpt from The Science of Mind, page 448. Ernest Holmes, it takes him 448 pages to say the whole purpose of the science of mind is to reconcile the apparent separation of the spiritual world, which must be perfect, with the material world, which appears imperfect. The spiritual world is the cause of the material. We are spiritual beings governed by mental law. And then he goes on to say, wherever this consciousness lacks a true perspective, its outward expression will lack proper harmony. Thus the bumpy road, right? And he says this is why we're taught to be transformed by the renewal of our mind. The renewing of our minds. But it's not just our thoughts. It's not just our thoughts that need our attention. Change, external change in your life and in the world will not happen until there's an internal change. And it's a little more than our thoughts that are involved. And it might happen this morning. Or it might take you 29 years like it has me, and you're still working on it. But you know, it's a joyous journey. And it's so brilliant and amazing when you have experiences and you go, oh, how did that happen? Oh my God, I wouldn't have behaved that way a year ago, 2 years ago, last week. An amazing journey. An amazing journey. Look, we're all swimming in this soup of collective unconsciousness. Sorry, it sounds like a bad thing. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a thing. We are swimming in this soup of collective unconsciousness. Ernest Holmes said every person is surrounded by a thought atmosphere. I hear that and I think of Pigpen, right? And Charlie Brown with all the stuff coming off of them. Well, we could have good stuff coming off of us. We could have our radiation being joy and love. Yeah, playfulness. Wayne Dyer, in his book, Spiritual Solutions for Every Problem, talks about it in terms of energy, that we have a vibrational atmosphere. Ernest Holmes also called it an aura. Every one of us have that. And the things to remember about that is whether we see our atmosphere as thoughts or vibes, is that it's creative. It's magnetic, like law of attraction and cause and effect. And so we're affected by this soup that we're swimming in, the collective unconscious, the subjective world. And so today I want to share with you 5 steps that offer us extra insulation, I think, an extra insulation of protection from the external world, from the world of form, but it also allows us to be a positive influence in the world. If we're affected by negative energies, if we're affected by the news and hateful thoughts and words and behaviors, violence, if we're affected by that, then others are affected by us, right? Think about that. So what's your contribution? Again, Hector's reading. Thank you for that. Let's be in that place of namaste, taking consciousness higher when we're dealing with other people. And it's much easier to do with these 5 steps. It's much easier to do when we have a way to remind ourselves. Now, Bobby tried to remind some people this week. He did a little Facebook question. I think it was like an experiment. But he made a Facebook post and he put out there, does the resentment that you hold for those you disagree with create the results that you want? Simple question, right? It is amazing to me to go in and read the responses, because so many people went right into a political dissertation or fighting for their limitations, I would say, but having a position on vaccines. Well, he didn't even have that word in the question, nor was it his intention. But it's amazing how a question that was prompting introspection still was kind of finger pointing for some people. See, the problem, nor the solution, anything really, is outside of us. It's not something we point at out there to blame or to even want and think is the answer, but it's inside. It's inside. So his question would be more of a prompt for introspection. I don't know. Does it? Let me think about that. It's our understanding and our relationship to the source and substance of life that holds some really interesting answers for us. So Bobby was simply inviting people to look within for their own direction, answers, and solace, which is where it all comes from. Eckhart Tolle in Practicing the Power of Now says, at the level of being, one recognizes that all suffering is illusory, not real. It's not real. Suffering is due solely to identification with form. Think about that, with physical form. Our suffering out there is to do with physical form. And let's go back now to this universal principle of oneness. There's only one thing. And we're being invited over and over and over again. We have a standing invitation to connect with the divine, to connect within. So from this thing called life, Ernest Holmes writes, when a problem confronts you, so this is when the road gets bumpy, right? When a problem confronts you, take it into the silence of your consciousness. Instead of thinking of the problem, think of the answer. Because then he goes on to say, God doesn't have any problems. Principle doesn't have any problems. And our problems are solved by bringing them under the control of principle. So you take your problem to the idea of oneness, to the idea, and then the problem, he says, is dissolved as the principle flows through it. Isn't that delicious? The problem is solved when the principle, the truth, flows through it. See, it's the presence itself that is always the answer. Or rather, our acknowledgement of it, our communion with it, our acceptance of it and its gifts. And so we go to the divine not for the purpose of fixing things, but the purpose of being the thing, right? Not even for being in its presence, but being ultimately its presence. So Ernest Holmes goes on and says how necessary it is to not attach our problems to the divine mind, but to unite the divine mind with the answer to the problem. And he says there's a vast difference in that. Again, principles have no problems. Therefore, in a sense, we subject our finite problems to the infinite intelligence which automatically solves them through our recognition and acceptance that they're being solved. In actual practice, this means that we rearrange our thinking in such a way that we permit new ideas to flow. Here it is. Here's the rearrangement. 5 steps. Reverend Dr. John Waterhouse says it's 5 steps to freedom. That's the title of his book about treatment, or spiritual mind treatment, or affirmative prayer that we call it. But treating is to treat your mind to a new idea, right? To permit new ideas to flow, to rearrange our thinking in a way that allows the false to leave, right? So we look away from the problem to the highest possibilities we can think that God is, which I said last week is what Emerson calls prayer. Not forgetting, because this is uber important, the emotional feeling that we have, the vibration that we bring to these ideas, be they new or old. We want to feel into it. And so we might need to practice. I recommend that you practice daily, that you practice treatment daily. It makes a whole world of difference because soon it becomes natural, second nature, as I said last week. Because, see, at first, when we first start this process, this practice, we may not believe it, not at the level of embodiment, which is where we ultimately want to get. So the first step is a principle that we've already talked about, that God is all things, that God is ever present, that God is all-knowing, unconditionally loving, that everything that we can think of in the spiritual realm, we want to name and we want to feel into it. We want to own it. We want to embody it. So we want to feel that we are immersed in unconditional love, that this universe is indeed loving and supportive, that there's a power and a presence in us just like in the acorn, an intelligence, an infinite knowingness that knows how to create endless forests from one acorn, that there's an inherent intelligence there, a process. It's a promise in us. And that there's incredible order and orchestration in the universe. You know, that something that rises the sun and the moon and keeps the planets in orbit. It happens every single day. It doesn't rest. It never fails. It doesn't falter. It happens. It's orderly. It's orchestrated from on high. That same thing is in us. And so again, we are reconciling this idea of separation. We are reconciling with the hypothesis that the physical world is where power is. That's what the world would have us think. That the jobs and the relationships and the cars and the money and all that's where our power lies. But yet, we're all born of a spiritual world. And so we're doing a process in this first step of naming everything glorious that we know about God and recognizing that as we do that, we are cleansing our eyes and our ear and our heart and our mind from delusions that our power is anywhere other than in God, in us. That we are indeed inseparable from this source and substance of all life. And so that leads us to the second step. And that second step says, I am a unique and divine incarnation of the One. I am it in form. I am endowed with its qualities. All that I have just named of the divine is within me because I am of it. I can be nothing else because there's only one source and one substance, right? And so its nature must be my nature. Sink into that. Allow that to empower your entire being, your body, and the body of your affairs. And here's a tip. Whatever it feels like you are experiencing as a problem, or whatever you're sensing that you're lacking in life, whether it's energy or ideas or money or love or health, whatever it is, you want to highlight those qualities in step one. You know? Oh my God, I live in an abundant, prosperous world. There's so many leaves on the trees I cannot name them, and when they fall, they come back. There's the plants that grow out of the cracks in the concrete. There's an urge to life, and I am associated with that. That same process is in my life, right? So that we want to make that connection between step one and step two. And drink it up. You know, like, oh my God, let yourself feel that. That is me, that I am immersed in, surrounded by, swimming in. Allow yourself to really get juiced up by this truth. Because it really is power. We want to vibrate at this level. That I thought that I was out here seeking, oh my God, it's right here, right now. How delicious. And then we move to step three. And step three is the claim it. Right? I'm going to name it and claim it now. This is where I say, I affirm. God is, I am, I affirm. Right? Step one, God is. Step two, I am. Step three, I affirm. This is active in my life. And spell it out. Feel into it. Feel into it. You want to be positive. You want to be present tense. It's already here now. Like it can't be anywhere else, right? It can't be anywhere else. So we want to open ourselves to it. So if there's anything that distracts you, anything that you're aware of or even not aware of, let it go here. I let go of all obstructions, known or unknown, to my good. It flows through me now. I sense it now in my body temple. I see it in the body of my affairs. And then 4, I'm so darn grateful for this. I am so grateful. I celebrate. I am thrilled. I am enthused. Name everything that you're grateful for. Get yourself all pumped up for the good that's already in your life and that which is yet to be revealed, because you already know it's real, it's true, it's yours. Yes? I mean, isn't this what Jesus' whole gig was about? Yeah. Know it, claim it, be it. I mean, he might have used some other words like the kingdom of God, you know, and use your own words. Make it real for you as I make it real for myself. And then the fifth, it's the easy one. Maybe not so much. The fifth is letting it go. Look, we've planted the seed. We've done the work in consciousness. Let it go. Trust. Trust. And if you have trouble trusting on your own, call in a practitioner to hold that space with you, right? Because we want to let it go. We've planted the seed. We don't keep digging it up. That was the song Bobby sang last week, right? We want to know that everything is perfectly okay, here and now. Fill ourselves with that sense of peacefulness, that our work is done in consciousness, and we're elevated. Our vibration is high. We've always been in the love and protection and support of the divine, and we always will be. Allow that to fill you. And then we let law, let God do its thing. And I want to end with the best example that I personally have to share with you. And I've shared this with you before, but it was in person right after it happened. And so it's not recorded, and some of you may not know the story. And I can't remember how long ago it was, maybe 1.5 years or 2.5 years. I really can't remember. I was rushed to the hospital in terrible pain. Was it 2.5 years ago? And I was in trauma physically. It was a great deal of pain. But I was not in trauma, drama emotionally, and I certainly was not spiritually. My blood pressure was so low. I was aware, and I have no medical training whatsoever, but I was aware that it was not sustainable. We didn't know what was wrong. The doctor suspected it was my appendix, and so while we waited for that confirmation, I was amazingly at peace. Again, I was fully aware that my stats weren't sustainable. I wouldn't live long like that. Something would need to be done. And again, I felt an incredible sense of peace. I asked Bobby this morning if that was his memory, if that's what he was seeing in me, you know, so maybe I just wasn't glorifying the story. And he said, no, that's what he was recognizing in me as well. He said, you were in a lot of pain, but you were very peaceful. There was a real sense of trust. And I recall that being odd, you know, like I said earlier, kind of a recognition that, there was a day where I wouldn't have been behaving this way. I would have been a little frantic, but I was oddly at peace. And so I had surgery. It was my appendix. I had surgery. They removed my appendix, but I had to spend a week in the hospital, almost a week in the hospital, because it did rupture. So I was quite ill. And I remained in peace. I witnessed roommates come and go who were filled with trauma, who were filled with fighting with the nurses and complaining to the nurses and talking on the phone horribly to their family members. I witnessed a lot, and I remained on the other side of that curtain in a deep sense of peace. I found a TV channel that had meditative pictures and music on it, and I stayed in that realm quite a bit. They had difficulties with my IV feed, and they had some machine kind of like a Pac-Man, you know, looking for my veins while they're poking needles in me. I talked to the two technicians. I got to know them. I asked about their lives. I was at an incredible state of peace. In fact, I was in love. I was in love. I loved all my nurses. I would not tell you that it was a bad experience, what I had whatsoever. I found myself really wanting to connect and uplifting and being uplifted at the same time. It was really quite a beautiful experience. I don't know how that happened. You know, I don't know how that happened. But it happened. It was real. It was a real experience. And I do believe in the deepest depths of my being that it happened because of my spiritual practice. It happened from these 5 steps. It happens because I really have gotten to embody that God is all there is, and it's right here. It has embodied itself and taken this form. And I know that about you too. I know that about you too. And so I encourage you to practice the presence by learning treatment, by perfecting your treatment, by really adding the oomph, the feeling into the practice of communing with the divine. I'm so grateful for these tools. So very grateful. You know, I have a saying at my front door that says, there's no way to peace. Peace is the way. There's no way to God. God is the way. You are it. This I know. And so it is. All right, we're going back to Jessie. Thanks.
All right. I love spiritual mind treatment, and I love, Rev, how you mentioned that the last step of letting go might be the hardest one. But we're going to affirm right here and now that it's not hard. And I wrote this song specifically for that, to praise the process of learning to let go. This song's called Something Better. Sometimes it feels like my heart is stuck in a revolving door. It can get me down so much I don't even want to mess with it anymore. Ah, that too familiar feeling, oh, I know it well, but I don't let it get too far. No, I'm too good at staying cool now. Yes, I am learning the art, just like the Rev. And I'm getting good at letting go, yeah. Getting good at giving it over, cause I know it ain't in my hands. I'm getting good at letting go, yeah. I'm getting good at giving it over, cause I know, though I do not understand, my soul's always got something better planned. Ooh. When the shadow comes creeping in like a thief from my past, I turn on the light by remembering only my soul knows my path. And I'm getting good at letting go, yeah. Getting good at giving it over, cause I know it ain't in my hands. So I'm getting good at letting go, yeah. Getting good at giving it over, cause I know, though I do not understand, my soul's always got something better planned. And I am unburdened, yes, I am free when I believe. Hey, if I just keep trusting, if I keep the faith, I know I'll see when I let go. And I know when I let go, and I know that my soul's always God. Yes, my soul's always God. Oh, my soul's always God. Something better planned. Yeah. Something better is coming along. Stay calm. Slow your heartbeat down. Don't freak out, cause it's alright now. Getting good at letting go. Getting good at knowing that the universe has got our backs. Ooh, getting good at letting go. Letting something better flow. Something better.
Let it go. Yes.
we all know about that. Just a note, it was about 2.5 years ago, and I remember this, the exact dates actually, because it was a weekend, and early the Saturday morning, I got a text from Reverend Theresa asking me if I would speak the next day. And I started laughing to myself because I was stuck with IVs and so forth, having just had an emergency bypass surgery. I went in with all sorts of confidence that I was okay and was just going to have my test and go home the same day or at worst the next day, and wound up going home 4 days later. So I remember that weekend well, yes. And letting go really is our life. We center ourselves in spirit. We center ourselves in knowing that we are of spirit. We center ourselves in the declaration, the realization of the truth that we want to see express as our lives. We express that great gratitude. And the release part is how we walk from day to day to day. And Reverend Theresa said, "It is mine to the degree that I recognize and accept it." And that's where we live in release. And for me, as you know, my hot button, and I'm just going to promote the Science Mind magazine, which is the October issue. And guess what? If you turn to page 88, you'll find my smiling face writing about to circulate or not to circulate. And some of you say, "Oh, I don't have anything to circulate." Now, wait a minute. We are a creation of the universe. We are a creation of spirit. We have everything to circulate. "Oh, but I don't have money." Okay. Do you have a smile? Do you have a thank you? Do you have a helpful hand or a helpful idea or a way to present yourself that, as Reverend Theresa described some of her roommates who were just sounded like unhappy. Could you be happy instead? Could you handle a problem with a smile on your face? Those are all ways to circulate. When my wife Deborah and I came to Florida, we literally had just enough money to pay the movers the second half of the moving fee that we owed to move into the place we were moving to. We had no jobs. We were not coming to jobs. We were coming hoping to start over, having literally lost everything as early adopters in the recession of 2008, but for us it was 2007. But we did something. We found the local, what is now the Center for Spiritual Living, Cape Coral. We offered ourselves as practitioners. We began to pray. We began to lead meditations. We began to serve, showing up on the service days, all those things. We didn't have money, but we had a lot to give. And we gave as freely as we could while we were doing other things that you have to do to sort of get some flow going in the money area. And we gave from what little we had at the time. So this is a growing ministry. It's growing in numbers, it's growing in energy. And for those of you that do have money to share, bring it forth and share it with this ministry so that it can continue to grow. We can continue to support Reverend Theresa in the work that she's doing to unite us all in consciousness each week. I know that this is definitely something we all enjoy and we all partake in and are fed by. So we walk each day in that release of knowing that, plain and simply, God has our back. Your back, my back, everyone's back. And let's live that way and give freely from that space that we may receive as well. Because if we don't make a space, there's no place for something new to come in, something more to come in. So I just take a moment knowing that it is all good, it is all God, it is all perfect, whole, and complete. And I bless each giver and I bless each gift, knowing that together we are creating this powerful ministry known as a Center for Spiritual Living, Cultural Coast. And so it is. And now over to Bobby for our offertory chant.
Thank you, Reverend Emil. I receive the gift of life and pass it on. I receive the gift of love and pass it on. I receive the gift of joy and pass it on. I receive all good and pass it on. I receive the gift of life and pass it on. I receive the gift of love and pass it on. I receive the gift of joy and pass it on. I receive all good and pass it on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Hector. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Emil. Thank you so much, every one of you, for tuning in, for passing this along, for your energy, for everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I've got a grateful heart. I just quickly want to say that we've got a workshop that's going to come up, Fear to Faith. We've probably got a class that's going to start in October. To get the links for Tuesday morning visioning or Thursday evening meditation, you need to be receiving our emails. So make sure that you're plugged in. You can do it on Facebook. You can get on the MailChimp email list there on Facebook, or you can do it at our website, which is cslculturalcoast.org. With that, I love you. I am going to go post the link for our Zoom time, our social time together. If you have an hour or even a couple minutes to spare and you want to pop in, we're going to be talking a little more about treatment. All right. Love you much. Love you much.
Thank you, Reverend Theresa. And if you would like prayer support, email prayer at cslculturalcoast.org. And be sure to like and share these videos if they mean something to you. And have a great week. We're going to end with a Jackie Wilson song, slightly rewritten. God's love is lifting me higher than I've ever been lifted before. Keeps me up, filled with desire, makes my dreams come true forevermore. God's love keeps lifting me, keeps on lifting me higher and higher, higher. God's love keeps lifting me, keeps on lifting me higher and higher. I do believe that I have been blessed. My heart is open and I am reborn, a co-creator with God as my partner. God is at my side forevermore. God's love keeps lifting me, keeps on lifting me higher and higher, higher. God's love keeps lifting me, keeps on lifting me higher and higher. You know God's love keeps lifting me higher than I've ever been lifted before. It keeps me up, filled with desire, makes my dreams come true forevermore, makes my dreams come true forevermore. Have a great week.